I had every intention to harmonize and sing Tammy Wynette, but I'm just gonna save you all the trouble. It didn't sound good. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be among the first to know. Coming towards that end there, folks. Episode 8 of American Crime Story Impeachment is here. Title of the episode is same as the Tammy Wynette, old classic Tammy Wynette song, Stand By Your Man. Fitting as Hillary. This is the Hillary Clinton-centric episode. Enter Miss Edie Falco. I know I've been saying the entire run of this, I'm like, man, you don't get Edie and don't put her on the board. Like, why isn't she being used? And this is sort of the episode where we get to let that shine. Considering the order of how things happened, this makes a lot more sense that her episode comes here. This first episode, we don't get any Sarah Paulson, so Linda is completely off the board in this, but we do get a lot of Bill and Hillary recreating a lot of the interviews that they did throughout this entire faux pas. The 60 Minutes interview, her solo Today Show interview, they all recreate that and recreate that quite well. You'll see the outfits, you'll see the post, the brooches, the green, all of that. It's all here on display. These folks do their homework here. And that's what's, I think, interesting about these American crime stories. This one's in particular, there's a lot of footage that these actors have to kind of watch and recreate. And I think this episode's a little bit longer than the typical episodes, hour and 23 ish, because there's a lot of things that they just didn't want to cut. Like, right, let's play these 5 minutes. Let's do this interrogation that he has in front of the grand jury. Let's play all of that out. And it's all here, and Clive and Edie are batting 1,000 with this one. This episode starts with Jennifer Flowers being another of the many names that have gone across Bill Clinton's desk and other forms of platforms. Jennifer comes out and says that she had a 12-year affair with President Clinton, and it is put there for a couple of reasons. One, to show that this is a continuous cycle for Clinton, but it's also placed there to sort of bookend the show and sort of say that Hillary was more in line with Bill here to kind of back him up, because Bill told her the truth, so she believes. I feel like consistently we've learned that Bill tells her enough of what she needs to know, so that she can still maintain some level of ignorance, but also still be back him up without feeling like less than a woman. And so with this, they go on a 60 minutes tour, and with about Jennifer, and say that he says that, I met her a couple of times, not a couple of encounters. We didn't really have that much. And Hillary, wearing that green outfit, Hillary goes on 60 Minutes and does sort of like, kind of gets aggressive. This is sort of the first time I think the audiences ever really see Hillary in a video form in person, outside of just being the person that stands next to President Clinton, and it comes off aggressive. But she does the whole, what do you think, I'm like Tammy Wynette, down by your man? Like, no, we are still in a relationship, and that rubs some people the wrong way. Her points, her press secretary, or her person, her handler, kind of lets her know, like, yeah, you've lost some points. And then come to find out that there was a tape. Bill is always getting messed up by these damn tapes. There's a tape that Jennifer releases right after that interview that sort of negates some of that and says that Clinton was a little bit more involved with her than he let on. There's a line in this that Hillary says is that he tells me everything. That's how we survive. And she says that to David Kendall, who's a handler for President Clinton, but also a long-term friend and aware person of Hillary. The interesting thing about this that she says this to him after President Clinton sends David to her to sort of soften the blow, to let her know that, yeah, these Monica things are real, and I'm going to have to let you know them. So he sends him there as sort of a buffer to let her know that info before he has to let the world know. This comes after she does her Today Show interview where she basically throws Monica under the bus, says like, I don't know what she's talking about. He really didn't have any interaction. She basically puts herself out there as a human shield to protect. But we all know, and we subsequently know now, that he was lying to her. So that line where she says, he tells me everything, that's how we survive, it sort of faltered there because he didn't tell her everything. He kind of left her out there to hang out there to dry. And a lot of the remorse, anger, betrayal that she feels is not necessarily worded towards the actual affair with Monica. It's more so that you didn't tell me everything, and I went out here and put my face out there to back you up. So she's stuck in this middle ground where she can't be the person that leaves the president of the United States, but she also is now this person that is, I'm gonna stand by my man no matter what he does, and she's sort of damned if she does, damned if she doesn't, and now gets into this shrew, quote unquote, what we've sort of thrown Hillary into, the shrew of a woman, because she's now business oriented. Everything's business as opposed to necessarily what was initially said in the interviews at the beginning of this, which is like, oh, you're standing by your man because it's a business job, all of this stuff. It wasn't. But it seems like because of what has happened, because the president lied to her, that is sort of what has ended up on the back end of this. While this is going on, before we get to the Kinstar grand jury situation, Monica is kind of just chilling, but Ginsburg is doing some hardball tactics with Ken and his team. And Monica's like, I need to let you go because she ends up being arrested. They basically are trying to cut the fire up so she can get this immunity deal, and I believe she gets to the point where she's going to do so. But because everybody knows that if without Monica, they don't have anything. Monica is sort of the linchpin because her affidavit says no. President Clinton says no. If they both say no, then the thing that would bind them is if they got her, because legally those tapes and everything else that exists can't be really used. I think the funny part of this episode for me is the interview for the grand jury and the testifying in front of the grand jury with Ken Starr. Before going in, President Clinton was told that we've given them 4 hours. We've given them 4 hours to use, so stretch out your answers. Do be prepared, but don't answer anything directly and quickly. Take your time. So he sort of knows how he gets the window. And if there's anything else, President Clinton can talk. So he prepares a statement. And this whole time, he has been sort of thinking of playing with letter of law because in his previous under oath thing, he said he did not have sexual relations with Monica. And he has given some thought and was like, well, I was under the impression that this is what they have sort of laid out what sexual relations means. This is their definition. And by that definition, I didn't have sexual relations with that woman. And it's crafty to sort of play with the legalese and the verbiage of it all. And it sort of leaves Ken Starr and his defense team and the team kind of, they're fucked, for a better word. They even say it. They're like, we're screwed. That like the grand jury, you can tell they're losing them. But he writes out this statement. Clinton writes out the statement and reads it verbatim. Takes out the glasses, takes his time. Everything he's doing is calculated to eat up time. And the fact that Ken Starr doesn't stop this or speed this up is a detriment to them. But he reads the story and eloquently. I mean, you're going to say it as well as Clinton can say it, and yeah. They kind of start winning some over. Now, doing so, he's shooting himself in the foot for his personal life, for his wife, but he's made this sort of gray area where the legalese of what he said is not incorrect. And it's fascinating to see how that was played with the simple word of the way that the word is used kind of muddies up the entire water. And they're getting flustered, they're getting flummoxed, but Clinton knows that he's gotten a one-up on them. But because of this, because Hillary wasn't made aware of this until the morning of him going to make that testifying, she's upset, understandably. She tells him, you need to go tell Chelsea before you go do this because she's going to be pissed. But they all have to sort of keep this united front in front of cameras. So after the testifying, there's this whole an additional story that he still has to be the president of the United States while this is all going down. And so they have a retaliatory strike against assets of Osama bin Laden, where they think Osama may be president, and he gives the order to strike, even though one of his aides sort of is like, "Hey, if you do this now, there's a possibility, especially if we don't get Osama, there's a possibility that this will look like you are trying to just take attention off of your issues that are happening." He's like, "Shut up, I'm doing this." So Chelsea, Hillary, and Bill go off to their like lake house for his birthday. Hillary's not talking to him, but they do that helicopter walk where they kind of hold hands. Anytime the camera's on them, they are providing this front of smiling and all that stuff. But the second they get in the house, Chelsea just drops her dad's hand and walks up. She's disgusted with him. Hillary's like, he's put his stuff in the guest house. Like, they are only doing this for the cameras because he's the president of the United States, but they don't want to be around him. And so they have their normal 50, I think it was his 52nd birthday, at Martha's Vineyard with Vernon Jordan, played by Blair Underwood, and his wife. In the midst of this, it's probably a hard thing to have as a birthday celebration for the person who has basically made you look like an idiot in front of everybody. So Hillary's getting her drink on. She's got wine coming the whole time, and Vernon's like, "I don't think this is going to be a good idea," but they just keep going with it. Vernon and Clinton have a moment, and they talk, and he's like, "I messed up. I got you into." He's like, "Hey, don't worry." And Bill's like, "Can you say a word for me?" He's trying to get everyone humanly possible to say something on his behalf, knowing that he's in the doghouse. Vernon's wife and Hillary have a moment, and she's like, "I'm fine. Don't worry about me. I'm fine." Kind of just shutting it down, not wanting to actually talk about it. It's still keeping up that bravado of what we have stays here with us. But she feels like, and this is where she's coming from. Clinton does this whole little birthday story about like, "Oh yeah, I can make any guy president if I'm with them." But there is this thing where she feels she has given up who she is and who she can be as a person to back this man up who didn't even have the wherewithal or love enough to tell her the truth, even when he was doing wrong. And he's done wrong before. As long as he let her know, she's like, "Okay, we can get through this." Her being blindsided by him lying and then making everybody else look like a fool to him. Like, Ken Starr knows that she's either lying or a dumbass, or Monica knowing that she's lying or a dumbass. That is what affects her more. She just wants a moment to just breathe without Secret Service, without President Clinton around. She just wants that moment to sort of reset before I think she moves on. And as we all know, stand by her guy again. He goes off to sort of figure out what exactly is the ramifications of the bombing that he has ordered. Who they now say that Osama was not in there, which we all know he wasn't. And in that, Hillary sort of checks the coffee, starts getting kind of back into that wife protector mode, and then just kind of has a moment where she goes to breathe. She knows that all the security guards are gone, everybody's out of the house. Chelsea's somewhere, but not really coming out. But she goes out to the beach and kind of just stares there, sighs, and takes it in. We get a bit of the next episode where it's clearly she's back on business and like, all right, we got to fix this. Because at the end of the day, their political strength needs to still be up a level, because if she has any desire to continue on to do anything on her own or just to keep this going, they need to be a united front, even though inside they have broken and damaged that trust. That trust will never be built again, because all she asks from the very jump, tell me the truth and we can survive. Second, you lied to the person who's got your back. That just says a lot about the character of President Clinton. If the one person who's got your back through no matter what, even through all of your F-ups, can't tell her the truth, and you are blatantly afraid and sending everybody else to the lions to do it before you do, it's not the best look. It's not. A really powerful episode, a really good episode to kind of show you kind of how Hillary became what she is. and how she's sort of in this damned if you do, damned if you don't view from the media and a lot of political women, men, they just all see her as being this way, and a lot of this shows you how we wound up in that situation. But what did you guys think of the 8th episode of American Crime Story, Impeachment? Stand by your man. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name. That's a Google Podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcast, here on YouTube, anywhere that plays podcast. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.